What is going on, GW Faction? My name is Josh Williamson. So, only a few of you know this by now, but I really like horror movies. It's part of what I say in my About page right now. And I did a bunch of streams on the Friday the 13th game, and I made a short little rant about this psychologist saying that people who enjoy horror movies and sleep well the following night after doing so are potential psychopaths, which I think is untrue. But anyways, I haven't talked about them too much on my channel, and I think now would be a good time to do so. And what better way to do it with, in my opinion, the top 5 worst horror movies ever made. Now, before I start, I just want to say for the record that there's going to be some people that like these horror movies that I'm about to mention. If you do like these, that's perfectly fine, okay? You know, it's my personal opinion. I'm really happy that you can enjoy something that I can't. But with that out of the way, let's get to it. Number 5. Hellfest. Man, I don't know if I wanted to put this movie on the list because at the start, it was actually pretty good, okay? The beginning of Hellfest and going on throughout, it was actually pretty good. You know, it had a really unique concept, in my opinion. You know, Hellfest is about, like, a haunted carnival, you know, a haunted house, like, gathering. And that was a pretty unique concept, and it was starting off well. The acting was pretty good. The kills, they were actually really fun to watch. And I just like the atmosphere in the movie. What makes this movie number 5 on my list, and not really as bad as the other ones I'm going to mention, is that, you know, while the reason why it's on the bottom of the list is because I actually liked the beginning of it. I liked what was shown throughout the movie before the end. What makes the movie so bad is the twist at the end. I was so confused whenever I saw the ending of that movie. And spoiler alert, you've been warned. What happens in the end is the particular killer that's in the haunted festival. He goes home and embraces his daughter with a hug. Like, okay, can someone please explain this to me? Am I missing something here? Does his daughter not know that he's working full time as a serial killer? Is the slasher just hiding something from his daughter? Like, I was so confused by that it just made everything else not worth sitting through this movie, and that's why it's included on this list of my worst horror movies. Like I said, it's on the bottom of this list because it was starting off really well, but it ended really badly with something really confusing, and that's why I consider it one of the worst. Number 4, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Let me just say right now that Friday the 13th is my favorite horror movie franchise. Absolutely adore Friday the 13th, okay? I love it to pieces. But this particular installment, there was a lot of bad installments in the Friday the 13th franchise, but this one is probably the absolute most horrible one, if you ask me. It's a little bit different from the past Friday the 13th movies before that, because we had, in the first movie, Pamela Voorhees was the killer, but in part 2, 3, and 4, Jason Voorhees had arrived, okay? And in part 4, Jason was killed. But in part 5, we had somebody else named Roy Burns pretending to be Jason Voorhees and going on a killing spree. And the reason why he goes on a killing spree is because he finds his son dead. What makes this movie so much worse than the others, in my opinion? In my opinion, it's because the plot was very confusing. Like, nothing made any sense. Like, how come Roy Burns' son was out in the woods and how was he found dead? Who killed him? And another thing, the kills were done with some of the most crappy effects known to man. Like, there was this one particular kill where this one girl got stabbed. The stab effect looked like someone was stabbing a pillow filled with fake blood. You could easily tell that it was fake. And more than any other movie in the Friday the 13th series, it just had to focus mostly on the overt sexuality and stuff. I mean, I get it, you know, that's pretty much part of how Jason Voorhees himself died when he was a kid. But I just feel like the writers in this particular movie just wanted to focus on the sex part. And that's the reason why probably there was a confusing plot and all the kills were done with crappy practical effects. Like, it was almost like they weren't in their budget, so they just came up with some. They used whatever was around, and just made practical blood effects with them. That's pretty much what I personally get the perception of when I think of this movie. This is the worst Friday the 13th movie in a series that I absolutely love. Number 3, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, the first I Know What You Did Last Summer movie, I actually kind of liked, okay? It was a pretty good movie. I mean, not one of my favorite horror movies, but I liked it. The second one was not very good. But the third one, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, oh God, is that movie bad. I think this movie is so bad for the reason why I dislike Hellfest, because of the twist at the end. I mean, at least Hellfest was starting off pretty well. I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer started off badly from the beginning. I mean, the beginning credits of the movie just give you this seasickness and epilepsy effect. Like, every time they cut to like another scene throughout the beginning credits, they had this really weird flashing and stuff that just made me want to hurl. All of the characters absolutely suck in this entry of the series, and just wait to hear the twist of this movie. Like, the Ben Willis is the slasher of the series. Okay, he's the killer. And he was in his human form. Like he's getting revenge on certain teenagers that almost killed him. Okay, and you know, at the end of the first movie, they thought he was dead because they knocked him into the sea. Was that the sea or is that the lake? I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I saw the movie. But anyway, and the second one, he's still alive, revealed, and his son is working with him, but he ends up actually dying in the second movie, and in the third entry, he's a zombie. And after seeing that scene in the movie, I had way too many questions. First of all, why did Ben Willis come back as a zombie? Why is he after these particular kids that he never even knew? That didn't even have anything to do with his almost death in the first movie or his actual death in the second movie. What do they have to do with him? I don't understand this movie at all. It took the most stupidest twist I've ever seen in any horror film I've ever watched. And it's no wonder why. This particular YouTuber, James A. Janice, who goes under the channel name Dead Meat, he labeled this as his most hated horror movie ever. And I can't blame him. This is a horrible movie. And it's really surprising that, in my opinion, 2 movies are worse than this one. Number 2, Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, Better Watch Out. This movie has almost everything I hate about a horror movie. Before I talk about this movie, let me just say, Silent Night, Deadly Night was never my cup of tea. Like, I didn't like the original movie. I know it's a cult classic. I didn't like any of the sequels that followed up. I didn't like the remake. I didn't like any of them, okay? They didn't suit me, okay? They weren't the type of horror movie that I'd watch. I always thought the thought of a killer Santa, which was only done in the first movie and in the remake, I thought that was just kind of silly to me. But anyways, this particular entry in the series is the absolute most horrible of them all. I just have no idea whatsoever why sequels to a lot of horror movies just get so stupid. Like, the main protagonist is a blind woman, and the villain, the killer of the movie, is a very ridiculous looking man with his brain exposed. I just find it so incredibly difficult to take a movie that has a slasher horror movie that has such a stupid looking killer. Like, this killer looks incredibly stupid. He looks so stupid, so cartoonish. I can't take a movie like that seriously. I seriously cannot. And on top of all that, this is one of those movies where no effort whatsoever was put into any of the kills. Every single one of the kills were done with the most effortless, lazy effects ever. Like, there was one where it was so obvious that someone was squirting a ketchup bottle across the screen while someone was being slashed off screen. And the story of this movie is just so boring. Like, this is probably, if you ask me, it's the most boring horror movie I've ever watched in my life. The entire Silent Night, Deadly Night series wasn't my cup of tea. You know, I never liked any of the movies that were installed in the franchise. Uh, but this one is the absolute worst of them. I would never recommend anyone watching this movie, unless you want to be bored, that is. And the number one most atrocious horror movie I've ever watched ever is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Where do I begin with this piece of crap movie? The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, one of my favorite horror movies ever. I love that movie. And I also really like the 2003 remake that came out. That was also a pretty good remake. But one particular movie in the series decided it was a great idea to take a comedic turn in the series and do some really stupid stuff with Leatherface. I mean, look at this design. Look at this design right here. Do you think that that's a very believable and scary design? What, was Leatherface having a gender identity crisis or something? And it gets worse. The characters are very unbearably annoying and just terrible to watch. And I swear to God, this is the same reason why I hate Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. All of the kills are really toned down off screen. Just were the writers afraid of gore? Were the writers afraid of gore? Or did they not want to spend any money to get some fake blood or have someone design like some practical stuff to make some compelling kills? This is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's supposed to be a lot of blood in this series. It takes away from what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation is just a huge spit in the face to what the franchise was supposed to be. It took everything from what it's supposed to be, made it into like a comedic, stupid, and just lazily put together movie that I don't know. I don't know how to describe this. I hate this movie so much, and that's why I personally consider it the number one absolute most awful horror movie ever. But anyways, this is all my opinion. If you like any of these movies that I mentioned, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I'm glad you can enjoy something that I can't. And I'd like to know what you think is the worst horror movie of all time. Post your comments down below, let me know what your opinion is on this. If you like this video, thumb it up. If you hate this video, thumb it down. All my social media will be down below in the description box. And be sure to click the subscribe button and become a member of the JW faction on our journey to 10,000 subscribers. See you later.